What would you do if you were at 37,000 feet and all your airplane's controls suddenly failed? On July 19, 1989, Captain Al Haynes faced exactly that nightmare. With 296 souls on board and only the engines to control his DC-10, he attempted the impossible, landing an airplane that should not be able to fly. Cameras captured every terrifying second when United 232 cartwheeled across the runway at Sioux City. 185 people survived what should have been impossible, but 111 weren't that lucky. Today we're going to analyze the real footage second by second of one of the most heroic and devastating landings ever captured on camera. It's 15:16 local time. United Flight 232 is flying peacefully at 37,000 feet over Iowa with 296 people on board. Families returning from vacation, business executives on trips, children visiting their grandparents. No one suspects that in 44 minutes they'll witness one of the most extraordinary events in aviation history. Captain Alfred Haynes, 57 years old, commanded the DC-10 with 33,000 flight hours. Beside him, First Officer William Records and Flight Engineer Dudley Dvorak. But there was a crucial fourth man. Dennis Fitch, a DC-10 instructor, was traveling as a passenger in first class without knowing he would soon become a hero. In the airplane's tail, a microscopic tragedy had been developing for 18 years. The fan disc in engine number 2 contained an invisible crack that had grown slowly, flight after flight, until it became a ticking time bomb. At 15:16 exactly, that crack reached its critical point. The 200-kilogram titanium disc completely disintegrated, releasing energy equivalent to a bomb. The fragments pierced the fuselage like projectiles, cutting the 3 hydraulic lines that controlled the airplane. The sound was deafening. "What the hell was that?" shouted Haynes as alarms rang throughout the cockpit. Within seconds, reality became clear. Without hydraulic pressure, they had lost all flight controls. Ailerons, elevators, rudder, all inoperative. According to the manuals, landing was impossible. But Haynes refused to accept the impossible. Minneapolis Center, United 232, we have an emergency here. We've lost engine number 2 and we're having difficulty controlling the aircraft. The DC-10 began turning constantly to the right, entering a deadly spiral. That's when Dennis Fitch headed to the flight deck. "I'm a DC-10 instructor. Can I help?" Haynes accepted immediately. "We'll take all the help we can get." What followed was pure innovation born from desperation. Without traditional controls, they would use only the engines to steer the airplane. More power on the left engine to turn right, less power to turn left. It was like driving a car using only the accelerator. Fitch positioned himself between the pilots, his hands on the thrust levers. "A little more to the left. There. Hold it there." For 44 minutes, this dialogue would save lives. Meanwhile, air traffic control directed the flight toward Sioux City. In the passenger cabin, flight attendants prepared 285 people for what could be the end. Brace position became a collective prayer. What nobody knew was that television cameras were waiting. KTIV had sent a crew to cover what they thought would be a routine story. Cameraman Gary Anderson positioned his camera without knowing he would film history. At 15:45, United 232 appeared on the horizon, immediately recognizable as an airplane in grave danger. It was swaying violently from side to side, wings oscillating like a leaf in the wind. Families in their homes gathered around televisions as stations interrupted regular programming. In the cockpit, the final minutes were a mixture of determination and terror. "We're gonna try it," Haynes told the passengers, his voice calm but honest. 285 people prepared for what many believed would be their final moments. At 16:00, the final approach began. Cameras captured every second of the DC-10 descending toward the runway, clearly fighting uncontrollable forces. "Okay, here we go," were Haynes' last words before impact. 16:00 and 16 seconds. The right landing gear touched the runway. For one fleeting moment, it seemed the impossible was happening. The cameras recorded that instant of hope. But 1 second later, brutal reality imposed itself. The right wing touched the runway, the engine disintegrated, and the most devastating sequence ever captured live began. 44 seconds of total destruction. The 200-ton DC-10 began a complete cartwheel. Cameras recorded every second as the fuselage broke into multiple sections. Fuel ignited in fireballs, and what had been an airplane became absolute destruction. The first-class section separated and rolled 400 meters. The center section completely disintegrated. The tail exploded in a massive fireball, all captured live for the entire world. After impact, a strange silence fell over the airwaves. Gary Anderson, paralyzed by what he had filmed, kept his camera focused on the smoke and debris while processing the magnitude of what he'd captured. But on the ground, 285 rescuers headed toward the wreckage. What they found was both miraculous and devastating. Dennis Fitch was alive in the first-class wreckage. Captain Haynes had survived with minor injuries, but 111 people had lost their lives. The other side was extraordinary. 185 people had survived an unsurvivable accident. Children traveling alone walked away from the wreckage. Families separated by the destruction reunited at the crash site. Against all odds, more than 60% had survived. The investigation revealed that the disc failure had been caused by a manufacturing crack from 1971. But it also revealed something more important. The crew's response had been absolutely heroic. Faced with the unrecoverable, they had developed techniques that had never been attempted before. Captain Haynes became a legend, not only for his skill, but for his leadership under extreme pressure. Dennis Fitch, the passenger who became a hero, demonstrated that acting when you see a need can save lives. Their teamwork under impossible pressure is studied to this day. The techniques developed that afternoon became standard training for commercial pilots. Simulators were programmed to replicate multiple hydraulic failures. The lessons from United 232 transformed commercial aviation. The captured images became the most studied in accident investigation history. Frame by frame, investigators analyzed every second, using the footage to improve aircraft designs and safety systems. For the families of the 111 victims, the accident represented devastating loss. But many found comfort knowing that their loved ones' deaths contributed to changes that would make aviation safer. Their names are commemorated in a memorial in Sioux City. The 185 survivors formed a unique community, forever united by having shared an experience very few people have lived. Many maintained contact for decades, meeting annually to commemorate their survival and honor those who weren't as fortunate. 35 years later, United Flight 232 continues to be studied worldwide as a perfect example of how training, experience, and calm under pressure can turn total tragedy into partial miracle. The techniques developed by the crew have been used in multiple subsequent emergencies, saving additional lives. For the aviation industry, United 232 represents both warning and inspiration. The warning is that even the most redundant systems can fail in unforeseen ways. The inspiration is that when everything fails, the human spirit can achieve what theory says is impossible. The real footage remains one of the most powerful documents about heroism under extreme pressure. In 44 seconds of film, we see both the limitations and extraordinary possibilities of human courage. It's a reminder that sometimes the difference between total tragedy and imperfect miracle lies in refusing to accept defeat. The television cameras captured 44 seconds that forever changed our understanding of what's possible when humans refuse to give up. Captain Al Haynes taught us that sometimes the difference between total tragedy and imperfect miracle lies in staying calm under pressure and refusing to accept the impossible. In the comments, tell us, have you been in a situation where you had to stay calm when everything seemed lost? What inspired you about this crew's heroism? And if this analysis helped you better understand this historic event, share it so others can learn from the lessons of United Flight 232.